August 2025. We've had a bit of a late start today because we've had a bit of a agenda item for Shanti enlightening us all on what we actually do.
We're saving your time.
I think you're on. You might have your mute on. Unmuted.
Fine, yeah.
Right, I'll start with a prayer. Almighty and ever living God, in whose hands are the rights and hopes of all people, look graciously on us who govern and guide us so that our counsels may be wise and our decisions just. We have apologies today from Councillor McIntyre and Councillor Birchfield, and a late start for Mr. Ewan, should be noted. As he always notes it when I'm late.
Rickshaw.
Righto. Should someone move the apologies, please? Andy? Second, Jackie. Any declarations of interest? No? Well, sort of had our public forum petition. Confirmation of the minutes. Take it everybody's read the minutes. Any corrections for the minutes? Somebody want to move the minutes? Chris, seconded. Andy?
Emergency, minutes.
Okay. The emergency minutes, RMC meeting on the 23rd of July. Any corrections for them? Move those minutes. Andy, seconded. Chris? All those in favour? Long actions list. On page 13. Okay, 5 action points. I won't worry about going about the ongoing ones. One to complete was to provide councillors information around legal requirements on green waste dumping by West Coast local bodies. That's complete. The last one is locate and share council's historic delegation TTP Joint Committee extended independent hearings panel giving delegation to conduct meetings to make recommendations. And that's complete. And I thank Joe for that. It was very enlightening. I actually read it all the other night. Yeah, it's hard to read it again, I think, because it's you sort of forget what goes on sometimes. Okay, someone will move the action points.
I'll move that,
Move the
we'll
action
receive
points.
the report and we'll move items 4 and 5. We'll move from the list.
All those in favour? State environment report.
To talk about it a little bit more. I'm not going to spend much more time talking about this, so we've just had an hour and a half's worth of talking on it. We're recommending to the committee that you receive and adopt the State of the Environment report, which was outlined in the previous workshop. Within this report, I've given a brief overview of what's in the document that councillors can ask questions about if you've got any. Some additional information which isn't in the SOE is also provided in this report on pages 19, 20, 21 and 22, which actually identifies the sites that Johnny was talking about that had those issues with water quality. So he mentioned, 16% of sites that are in the D or in the C. This identifies specific water bodies where we think, there's a bit of a water quality issue potentially, because many of the attributes we measure are below the bottom line or declining. So this is really just giving you information that's more specific than what's in the general State of the Environment report. This information helps guide both our policy planners for review of land and water plan, but also our catchments team and where they support communities with non-regulatory work to improve freshwater outcomes. If there's something specific, then we can also take the compliance team might do something about this as well. And just as an update to councillors, we'll be looking at having a bit of an internal workshop on these sites and figuring out how we approach them and try and work to improve water quality across them.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add, in all my experience, it's really important that regional councils, when they've got water quality problems, don't just take a regulatory approach. That is certainly part of the, potential answer, with consents and compliance and rules and plans and things. But a lot of the time in catchments with water quality problems, working collaboratively with landowners and helping and informing and educating and collectively working up solutions collaboratively with landowners is often, not always, but often a much better way of going about it. And that takes us to our catchments team. And you'll have a paper on that later in the committee. Thanks.
And the last thing I wanted to touch on, I've also provided you of a draft table of when we're looking at going out to the community with the presentation you saw this morning. I am looking at pushing that forward a bit. So I had that scheduled October to November. We were considering doing this post-election, but are a little worried that we need to get the report out to the community as soon as possible. And I'd like some feedback from the councillors if possible. If you're happy with us to progress those presentations in September, then we'll go ahead with that.
Okay with me. The sooner the better. I'm got to have a chair's report, but I was really impressed with what you guys have done, and I really think we need to get the community as quick as we can, because there's so much the community don't really understand what's really going on and what we all spend our time on. There's been a lot of complaints about the amount of people we've got here, but it's a lot of work we get through. The sooner people can see that, better off we'll all be, I reckon. Anyone else, Peter?
Yeah, just to reiterate some of the comments I made in the workshop, but this is a really first class a presentation that you're going to take to the communities, and the document as well, and it shows the great work that our council staff have done. We've got a wealth of knowledge here in this organisation, and it's so important that lakes and rivers are monitored because they're so important for our communities, but also the work on our rainfall monitoring, early flood warning, pest control, and all these functions, air quality control, all these functions that the council does. And I hope through the media that there's a lot of report go out about this so that the community presentations can be well heard. And like Brett said, I think there's a total lack of understanding of some of the functions this council do. And, as I spoke earlier on, I think it's a nonsense to think about abolishing the regional council when you see this great work that's done, and just shows a total lack of understanding of what this organisation does. So, thank you very much, Shanti, and the staff. Well, we were fortunate to get that presentation to us, but prior to this meeting, but I'm sure the community will really look forward to seeing that and the benefits that the staff and the council does for the community. So,
from a purely practical point of view, I think the sooner we get it out, the better, because all the data is just more hot off the press, if you like, rather than sort of getting it another couple of months, 3 months later. It's sort of, starting to lose its significance, whereas the sooner the better. I'm really in favour of September.
Peter, you got something to say?
No, get out there.
Get out there, Andy.
Well, the only issue I got is with like deer and goats and things like that are pests. Well, we need to treat them as a resource, and then they'll get controlled.
I'd just like to add one thing, that without all the data that you guys are collecting, we can't prove globally to the rest of the world that you can have mining, conservation and farming all within such a small strip of land and still keep it under control. And that's the results of you guys doing that we can prove that it's actually working. We can make it work, and we're just got to stay on top of it. You can't do that without science.
Yeah, so councillors, so look, we'll take that as a bit of an endorsement in September to roll out a series of meetings in our different communities. Very keen to obviously have constituent councillors attend those meetings as much as possible, but also happy to take any suggestions from the constituent councillors in the 3 districts about what halls, what communities you want us to get into. Now, we can't be everywhere in every little community, but I think that's a good conversation to have with the constituent, Councillor Shunty, about where we should go and into what communities and how we're going to get the most impact and inform the most amount of people. And I don't think that's just in the three main centres of Hokitika, Greymouth and Westport. I think we're a few more locations than that potentially. But thank you.
One more question I see on page 22, Shanti, that was the proposed dates you've got there.
So looking at changing those.
Yeah, because I think it's more important to get that
Get them
out
out
before
faster,
October
yeah.
and after election.
Yeah, so the proposed locations as well as Karamea, Renton, Grey, Westport, Hokitika, Frankstrothip and us. And we're looking at sort of doing them at hubs, but really happy to have feedback if you think those are.
Right. I wonder how-
Go if you contact the rating districts and just see what their thoughts were, if they could get
Yeah.
do the work.
Yeah.
Okay.
We move the second.
I'll move the second that report.
I'm
Shane?
happy to move that.
Yeah,
Steve,
second.
the daily warrant report and adopt the report for public police. With any minor changes that councillors put forward.
Next one. Biosecurity, that's you again,
So
Shanti?
that's me. So this is the first time we've had a biosecurity annual report that's in a booklet. We did have one in the past and it was a single A4 piece of paper. I think last year we had a few, it was it was slightly bigger than this, but this is a huge achievement and shows how far we've come in biosecurity over the past 3 years. So the team are really proud of this and I encourage you to have a look at what we've achieved over the last year as well. So you've got 2 booklets in front of you and that provides one of them. We just like to highlight, the strong delivery of this team across surveillance, compliance, education, biocontrol and service delivery. Some of the key stats from this report, we've got 11 freshwater lakes surveyed, 300 community interactions, 30 social media posts, 259 progressive containment sites visited, 55 eradication sites assessed, 2 new transfers of biocontrol, 10 sites of biocontrol monitored, and survey delivery across 15 areas, which include campus, Nuffield and Wild Cherry. So 2 staff, really tiny budget, smallest biosecurity budget in New Zealand and achieving an incredible amount of work. So probably an area that I'm particularly proud of within environmental science. I think they really do an amazing service to our community. And as they highlighted in that workshop, it takes Taylor 2 days to control a site or keep it contained, which could have a $20 million impact to some of our really important industries. So really important, not just to protecting the environment, but to our regional economy as well. So all we're asking for council here is just that you receive this annual report, which I'll just highlight as well, is a requirement under the Biosecurity Act for councils to publish these.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? Shanti on that one?
Just another comment. I hope the public actually read this because it's an excellent document and shows that, like you said, Shanti, the great work and the benefits for our community. So it's going to be on the website as well as, I guess, hard copy or something the libraries want.
Yeah, and we'll bring this round for the roadshow as well for communities that are particularly interested. And we'll try to tailor those workshops to the things that impact that community most. So in Renton, we'll do a strong air quality presence, but Karamea will be more about pest control and also water quality.
So we'll the recommendations to receive the report. Got a mover for the report? Jackie, seconded Andy. All those in favour? Aye. What was that, Shanti? Everyone happy? We'll move on. Catchment Coordination Program Quarterly Report.
I'm going to get Sam Gibson to speak to this one because
I thought you
I'm
would.
speaking for today. So.
Welcome, Sam. Come
Thank you.
Have you also?
Are you right with me standing?
Yeah, go if you like. You can sit down, stand up, whatever you like. Move around here if you like.
Well, this is the catchments coordination quarterly report over what we've achieved in the last 3 months. We had Cohen pre-existing in this role, and he's done an incredible job to date. We have had 3 new staff come on board in the last 3 months, and the work that we've been doing, I think, has been really well received in the community so far, and has been well received by farmers, but also like has been received in some of our more contentious communities with actual real issues going on as well. So I think that's a good thing. There's a couple of statistics that I'll draw your attention to. On page 3 at the top, we've established 2 new catchment groups in the last 3 months. So one of those catchment groups is the Waimea catchment group, and the other one being the Kawatiri catchment group, which encompasses the Cape Bellwood area down to the Little Totara, so the Okari River, the Totara, Totara, and that has also encompassed that Martins Creek work that was pre-existing with Ginny as well. The other statistics is that we run 6 catchment groups in the catchment group meetings in the last 3 months. So for a team still finding their feet in the first couple of months, I think 6 is a fairly good number. Moving, there's plenty of detail there in the next coming pages. If you read that or you'd like to read that, there are some considerations for our team. We have now a team of 4, and they're achieving quite a lot of work. One of the considerations is there's no long-term funding for the other roles other than that main ratepayer funded role. So that's a consideration that can be for you guys to digest and feedback. There is potentially a missed opportunity as well to be able to leverage co-funding. So what we see in this space, I think, is that you need co-funding to be able to leverage national dollars. And oftentimes regional councils have a small contestable fund that allows both landowners, but also catchment groups be able to leverage and maximize other funding sources throughout the country to achieve on the ground delivery of those water quality outcomes that we've been talking about earlier today as well. So that's about what I'm going to present in this report, but I'm really keen on your guys' questions. I'm also very keen, if you guys have any feedback from your communities, even outside of this forum, I'm really keen to hear it, because our team's been operating from Karamea in the north all the way down to Haas, and you guys have great insights into your regions, and it would be really useful for us to understand if you've got feedback around our work program as well in your communities.
I'll just like to say with the funding thing, the more you can get out there, how much you've moved into the community already, the community will feed back to us eventually, like the rating district meetings and all the rest of it, you know. And that's where we're going to have to get our funding from, is from the community, and their acceptance of what you're trying to achieve is all important. And the sooner we can get that back to it won't be us, it might be the next lot of councillors. But I think it's a good thing, and I really think you're on the right track there. The other one was about endorsed exploration of options for small contestable natural heritage funds to be considered as part of it. Is that for what's the heritage stuff? Is that like?
So comparatively, so the Gisborne Council has a natural heritage fund where it's around 150,000 per year. It comes off a dividend from forestry, and what that allows is that individual landowners can propose a project that may have major water quality implications or farm biodiversity, and what they can do is they can put that application into the contestable fund. The committee chooses what ones are priorities, and then they get a rates rebate for the work that they do that in that next year in association with that project. Horizons have one that's $360,000, but I think that's beyond what our region needs significantly. But that's the nature of those funds.
So is that something we could put to the dairy factory, or Bathurst, or Federation Mining, or someone that's involved in the environment? I think we should take that on board and send our young lady on the track. I think the council should endorse that and try and find the funding from some of the bigger employers and probably the bigger risk of environmental issues.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I just comment. So firstly, this is a remarkable amount of work from such a standing start, really, for this team. So, and a number of interactions and, with community already is quite remarkable. And I just want to reiterate my comments from before. We cannot get the improvements that we need in our hotspot areas by just making rules and doing compliance. That's not how we're going to actually, move forward and solve some of our issues. We do need that as a backstop, but this work is actually key, and this work has been already underway for 20 or 30 years in all the other councils, and we're only just starting it now in the regional councils. The second thing is in terms of the leveraging external funding, let alone what this program might look like going forward, that will come forward as a consideration to the year 3 of LTP. So as part of the plan going forward, the year LTP. So just remember, we're in 30 June next year. In this financial year, we've got to reset, believe it or not. We're up to year 3 of our LTP, and we reset our 10-year projections. So roll in front every 3 years, and we can bring this external funding opportunities, etc., and what this program might look like for the new council post-October to consider what we would like to do here. And then the third thing that really struck me, and I just use this as a bit of a sort of a litmus test on what's happening out there. And there's some great information in this report, but one of the things that really struck me is 30% of the pastures in South Westland are being eaten out by the deer. That's massive, right? And what can we do about it? And that is potentially a part of the solution as a regional council function and regional council led, not only, but that's a pretty damning statistic, and that's actually being repeated right around both islands. The deer and the goats are getting away, and that takes us right back into the 1950s and 1960s when the forests were getting chewed out and the hillsides were falling off, and the government deer culling programs and all that sort of thing was happening in the Waro recoveries and all those sorts of things, the helicopters and that sort of thing were operating. That is a trend that should be really concerning the agricultural sector. And I'll just remind everybody, way back in those days, it wasn't about biodiversity, outcomes. It was absolutely about animal control for production of agriculture, and it was led by the agricultural fraternity. That stuff, actually. And these catchment programs and some of the initiatives that in here about having a hunting competition, all that sort of thing, is happening around the country now. I just heard on the radio this morning about a goats hunting competition up in the North Island because the goats have got away so bad they're starting to really eat out even pasture now. So well done, team, and councillors will bring this back as part of long-term plan. Thank you.
Yep, I'll just who?
Yeah, I just endorse what the chief executive said. Not only is it an agricultural threat with the pest animals, deer and goats, I think it's going to have serious implications for that part of the work that we do with our rating districts, because we're going to have a lot more aggregation in the rivers. This aggregation is coming from erosion on the dock estate. So really, government's got to front foot this. They can't ignore it. It won't go away because they do ignore it. I can't see a solution coming like Tim Wallace coming out with helicopters again. There'll have to be some real focus on getting it because it's getting away. And you only got to look at YouTube and you see herds of them. That's today, not videos of yesterday.
One modern day Barry Crump there.
Well, I'll just comment on that. Like I got an old mate he was a deer culler way back in the 50s, and they just shooting deer, they up the hill shooting deer all the time, just couldn't get on top. And then when they commercialised the venison and Tim Wallace and them come along, that just controlled it. And if we wanted to control them again, we gotta go back and do that. We gotta get rid of the 1080 poison that ruined the industry. And then we'll start winning. And if we don't, we're gonna be talking about pests for a long time. It's that simple, and the history's here.
Is it okay if I add some context? Or
You go if you want, mate, yeah. You're the expert.
I'm really not, but I have worked with catchment groups in this space before. We're actually calling, with another one of my hats on, other than working for you guys, for a national deer conference as well, because you're right, around the country, deer are becoming a significant issue. South Western Pastorals had $850,000 of MPI improved ourselves. And one of the projects coming out of that has been innovative solutions to the deer issue. We have seen things like perimeter fencing being a relationship between the Department of Conservation and the landowners and catchment groups is one tool that works fairly well, because you've got to be able to get a boundary up and then control using the industry. So there are innovative tools. I think there's a lot of space for, that's one of my aspirations while we're doing this program, is to look into those innovative tools for deer. It's a big issue for the reed.
Just a comment on Daryl's comment about not only the deer but the goats. I just last week was talking to one of the planters for the Ngā Tahu Forestry, and there was a herd, and I witnessed them. There was a herd of 30 goats, and they were chewing the tops clean out of the freshly planted trees. And not only that, they're ripping them out as well. So, here you go, put a crop in for 30 years of life, and here's a herd of goats. But they are so prolific out there, and it's they breed like rabbits, But the other thing I just wanted to comment on was, look, the Waimea, I hugely support and the catchment groups. If you look at the Waimea catchment, it's got huge economical benefits to both the grey and the Hokitika. But we've got the environment to consider there. We've got residents, commercial mining operators, and that committee could be a real good conduit for bringing the opposing views together for a positive outcome. Those groups can listen to each other's concerns and ways of working together. So I fully endorse those working groups. They're so important because the people that are living there, they're not going to go away, and probably the mining operations aren't either. So it's a matter of getting some balance in there and trying to come solutions. So good work on that front, and on that continue.
Thanks. The one other thing what Daryl was saying before about back in the 50s when they first started, a lot of it was to do with erosion control. There was huge erosion issues, and that's settled down. And now it is starting to come back again.
Councillor Young was trying to
All the deer with that tick they were starting.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Move on. Oh, someone will move that report from Sam's report. Peter Ewan, second Peter Ewan. Peter. Okay, move on to consents quarterly report. What was it? The recommendations to receive. All I'll say is there's a lot in the report, obviously, because we get them. But it's good to see it's all happening.
Thank you. Morning, councillors. Yes, I'm not going to go through all of the great detail with you. There's only a couple of things that I wanted to highlight in the consents report. One is that we're making a real effort to clean up backlog and some of the old consents that have been sitting around on hold for quite some time. So that's taken quite a bit of effort, sending out letters and then sending out emails and chasing people up. But I think it's a really important thing to do to tidy up our back office. And so that will continue, and we will keep you updated on the results of that. I also want to acknowledge that as part of the cleanup, we've done some significant work improving our billing processes. So Leah, our planning officer, has actually been doing a lot of work in the billing space, and so that's starting to flow much more evenly across the months, and we're getting better at doing our billing in the compliance space and the compliance space. So just wanted to acknowledge that while we're talking to you. As an update on the alluvial gold mining consents work, we have still been having some more conversations with Potini Ngāi Tahu to make sure that they're comfortable with what we're proposing in the standard consents. And we've also had the science team taking a bit of a look at the draft standard consents as well. I'm proposing that we aim for our meeting with the industry reps that we talked about last time. I'm proposing that we put that sort of for about mid-September, because I think it would be really good for our new group manager to have the opportunity to build those relationships and hear those conversations rather than me do it on his behalf. So that's the proposed date that I would get Stephen to start working towards mid-September for that meeting.
Any questions for Joe?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Thanks, Joe. I'm pleased that review is underway, and I'd like to see that sooner or later, because I think there has, from my listening out there, I believe there's improvement. I've heard good comments, the process, but I think it's important to get that industry group going and getting their comments before, to try and speed up the process on the resource consent, especially on the alluvial gold mine one. So, I'd like to see that sooner than later, but however, they've got to digest that. And I guess I know you're waiting, or you're well underway with Potini Ngāi Tahu with their review. So I guess, Francois, that's well underway, is it? Of the consent conditions and.
Yeah, the team are working well with the regional council staff, so hopefully we can get that done like you, please, sooner rather than later. And just on that, are we going to send it out early? Send out a draft early, Joe, and then for the date that we meet, so they've got a wee bit of time to digest, or how are you planning on doing that engagement?
I'm happy to take your advice on it. But yes, I do think there's a fair bit of reading, so it might be a good idea to send it out in advance.
It might, well, let's have a think about it. I'll pick up with you about, let's get it out. We don't want to, we just got to get that timing right. So let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just hearing that part of the conversation, I don't think that just one meeting with the industry group will be enough. I wonder whether we send it out early for pre-reading and that sort of thing. I wonder if we have a first meeting a lot sooner than mid-September, but the second meeting is mid-September with the new general group manager, so you can make those connections. I wonder if that might be more acceptable.
I think so. If we got that out, that for those people that are going to have an input into it, and they give them time to read it, because I know we've got a lot of stuff coming up in September for PPP and the like. So, so as soon as that can go out for review, it'll be a draft, and then go out to Francois, his team, and into that industry group, and then you can have a meeting with the new manager.
As if everybody knows it's a draft, then they can add to it, and they can have their input. That's what we're all doing here, isn't it?
That's right.
Councillors and that working group.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just with the working group, you're going to go to what? Minerals West Coast and people like that, or you're actually going to go to the consenting contractors, or
There was a team suggested that actually covered mining interests in coal and gold and farming and also Minerals West Coast, just as an overview, to come back and recommend to council what their thoughts are, because at the end of the day, the ultimate decision lays with council. But it's just getting from that industry group what their views are on the consent process and the guidelines. So yes, Brent, they'll be covered across the suggestions. But the councils will be involved anyway.
I was just thinking of the people who do the consenting process. Are they going to be involved?
I have an intention to. I think that would be a separate group. So we would have this engagement first, and then as we're getting further down the track, engage with the consultants who do the applications.
Yeah.
Just what if we gave them a draft and or something?
Because the sooner we can get their input, the better it will be for
I think so, because they're the ones who are going to be using it.
Yeah, there's no point in us making up something that's not going to function.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I don't really have a meeting with the Brits and put it out there and ask for comments or something along those lines, because it's not like there's that many.
No.
What do you think, Francois?
Yeah, we need to include that, 'cause, yeah, and like we all know who they are. There's a handful of them, right, that the mining industry use. So I think they need to be part of the conversation, and I'm sure that'll be valuable information that they can come, that they'll add, along with industry and council, obviously. But I think they're a key, because that's like, you suggested that the other ones doing the application, they're the ones actually dealing with council and ourselves on a daily basis.
Yeah. I just think it'll speed it up though, and at the start, and then rather than go to them and come back and make an amendment and blah, blah, blah.
Because you came in with it, it's the draft, so,
Yeah, it's a draft, so it's,
Yes, so that is the intention, after we've spoken to the industry group first.
Good, include them.
okay. So the recommendations to receive report, we're not doing? Peter? Sure.
Just a comment on the non-notifieds. Invariably here, we've got a site locator where these issues are, but I'm just curious, after Johnny Horrocks's presentation, that one of the issues that was in the orange is fetal contamination and sewage issues. And we've got a lot of sewage to water ones here, and wastewater where circumstances may enter waterways. And it's very vague. All it says is Westland Grey District, and it's it's not enough detail there. If we want to see where a potential cluster is, wouldn't it be beneficial to have, if it's at Buller, and you just put Cape Fowl and we'll know where it is. It may be leading to a stream there that's not up to spec. Westland could be anywhere. Grey District could be anywhere.
So
They're all over hundreds of kilometres. So, I think it's a little bit too vague to actually get a benefit of how we solve these issues.
through the chair, I've deliberately removed the names of people who are getting sewage tanks, septic tanks put into their private premises.
I didn't mention names, I said locations, Cape Fowl.
So we do have their locations and their addresses. I've just chosen not to put them into this document.
I think for councillors, the location would be good because it could be in my patch, it could be in Mr. Cole's patch, and so on. We're not clairvoyants. I think we should have a little bit more detail, be a bit site specific, not the address, not the name, just where is it?
So you might say, councillor, you might be saying Cape Fowland or Blue Spur rather than actually give physical. Yeah.
So we can put that in. It was just protecting the identities of private people who are putting in septic tanks.
Someone to move that? Cool. Chris Cole. Compliance monitoring. Oh. Do we want to push through until we get to the public exclusion? You happy with that? That's only 1:15, so I'll keep the thing rolling along here. Compliance quarterly report, the recommendation is to receive the report. Compliance group approve and release a bond of $32,000 for resource consent 2018-0049 Arion Mining. This has been completed in mine closure for rehabilitation done. So we'll move that first. Someone wants to move it? Jackie, all those in favour? Aye. Want to talk about Joe, or you quite? You don't really want to go through all
No, we're not
the
going to go.
heaps dirty laundry.
Just to sort of note for you that we've provided an update on the work that we've been doing on the wastewater treatment plants. And I'd like to acknowledge that we've got really a good engagement happening with Grey District Council, and they gave us a very robust plan. We've also had some information back from Buller District Council with their plans for Westport, and we're still working with Westland District Council on seeking an action plan from them. And the other big piece that you've got there is the compliance work program. Chris has done a lot of work articulating what it is that the team does and the work that they do. And just noting that the key message we want you to take away from that is that with the staff that we have here, when we get environmental incidents that they have to investigate, that impacts on their ability to do the monitoring work that we would like to be doing. So last year, they achieved a sort of an estimated 25% of the 3,500 consents were monitored. This year, we're aiming to get to 33% and have done a lot of sort of statistical analysis on numbers and people and things like that. So we're getting a little bit more targeted in our approach, but that does mean that sometimes an incident may be decided that it's low risk or potential low impact. So we may not go and visit every place when we get a phone call about something. So just ensuring that the councillors are aware of that. And the last thing I just wanted to note here is that this will be the last RMC where we had Chris Barnes here. So I just want to acknowledge Chris's efforts in this and in this space and wish him well moving over to environmental things.
Well done, Chris. Thanks for your effort over the years, mate. You've done a great job. And I know a lot of the miners in that respected your attitude and the way you approached sometimes quite difficult situations, and how you came forward and sorted stuff out for them, you know, without being too heavy-handed or being practical. I suppose it's better about practical solutions, and you will be missed.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's yeah, much appreciated. It's a hard choice to go. It's a very, very hard choice, but yeah, family comes first. In this case, and yeah, it's been 20 years that I've really, really enjoyed. Sort of 8 years, sort of 8 last years in the compliance, and really been very happy working with all of the councillors, but also everyone in the industries, whether it's forestry, whether it's mining, whether it's industrial, whether it's pest control. Yeah, it's been a life story.
There's a lot of industry knowledge leaving with you.
Local knowledge. That's what I call it, local knowledge.
Yeah. I'd just like to reiterate Brett's points there, Chris. You will be sorely missed, and you've done a great job as far as I'm concerned. You're great to work with, and I hope you don't enjoy Christchurch. Say the lowest beer position here.
You're gonna be 1 or 2,000 over there.
I know.
Right.
Thank you all.
Can we move that one yet? Can we move it second? I just want to say that you notice going through these complaints and big tip-offs and all the rest of it, there's a lot more stuff probably being tipped off now, creating a lot more work for the compliance team than what there ever used to be, even when I started on the council. Now it just seems to be, you know, someone's got a fire next door and they're ringing up about it, you know.
Several of them are the same folks, same complaint, and nothing to be found, and you've got 3 or 4.
Yeah. But anyway, move on to the.
Just, Brett, if I could just make a comment on that, please.
Right.
It's a great report, Joe. Thank you, and it actually tells a lot. You know, it's a huge improvement when I come on council. You know, and it gives I like to see the things there that you know, educational matter was taken or no actions taken or the likes matter closed. It actually knows where we are with it. So that's actually great. A lot of good information in there for councillors about what's actually happening with stuff. The only comment I got, we'll just have to be careful, you know, as council going forward with enforcement. Well, we've got several district council wastewater officers are non-compliant. It's sort of not fair or equitable to find, you know, small miners or farmers for breaches and turn a blind eye to those council non-compliances. You know, we need to be a bit consistent. But I do know they've got problems, and this council's given those territorial authorities time to actually come up with a plan. And I think that also reflects well to some of the mining operations as well. if they've got a plan, if they do have a problem, as long as it's not a blatant discharge or something, but if they've had an issue, and I know we had one of the larger mines had a bit of an issue, they were trying to mitigate that, but as long as they've got a plan, like the councils have for their wastewater discharges, I think that's good. But I just think you know, we need to be consistent there. And I do like that approach that staff are taking towards an educational matter. And I know the Waimea catchment's one that we're trying to, that the experienced miners are trying to pass on the information to the new miners. And with the price of gold and with the government direction on, you know, encouraging mining, we are going to see new people come into it. So I think it's important that the groups are established to try and actually educate people, because we want to look after the environment. We want to try and help industry as well. So that's my comment. So thank you for the educational view that the team are taking, Chris and your team.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Can I just a couple of comments here. Firstly, right across the country, all the regional councils are reporting a significant increase in complaints. And even the district councils across the country are reporting that. We know that from the statistics. So there's a lot more people that are vigilant out there, and you know, and complaining through the pollution hotlines, etc. What we have to do, and councillors have commentated on this before, we have to triage those complaints, because some of them are legitimate, and we should go out, you know, ASAP and go and inspect and respond to those complaints. Some of them, and it's a very few number, are frivolous and vexatious. And as they build up a trend of that, we should be triaging those and calling that and not responding. And that's needs to be is now part of the compliance team's approaches to complaints. The next one is that our approach is to use enforcement action as a last resort. And you're sort of seeing that, you know, in numerous instances, and also to educate and work with, which is, you know, the previous paper from Sam around the catchment groups and those sorts of things. But if the offending is of such a grievous nature, we will prosecute. That's a given, but it's not where we want to be first. So I can reassure councillors that. Thanks.
Yeah.
And just further to Councillor Haddock's comments, page 155, third from the bottom, sump waste discharge. I take it from that it's not a private thing. The sump issue is a local authority thing. And, you know, as practitioners of the RMA, all local authorities should know the ins and outs of the Litter Act and all the rest. We had the green waste one first. This one here was avoidable like a hangover, and you make a rod for your own back if you do not follow all the regulations you insist your average ratepayer to follow. Now, there's no mention of who it is, but I'm pretty sure it's not a regular ratepayer, because they don't clean sumps out. I'll leave it there.
Let me just say one thing there too about the removal of gravel. I don't think a lot of people realise that they're supposed to notify. And I don't know if that's written on the consent or not. So it's sort of Cross didn't know anything about it. They're the ones that got people point there. I mean, but it's just, I don't think a lot of people probably realise that. They probably had consents for years, not, you know. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, are you saying that there's probably a little bit more education we can do here around the notifications?
I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, and just a reminder out to the gravel extractors.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Really very helpful.
That's what happens with permitted activity is 1,000 metres for that.
So we could put out a press release and maybe do some comms and that sort of thing, but in terms of the those that actually hold consents, just maybe a letter, Joe, out to them, just reminding them of their obligations in order there. Is that?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, and when they do the catchment group thing, it's probably something that could all be around together, you know, probably education thing. Chris?
Through the chair, we do take an educational approach with it. So when there is a situation where someone has taken gravel There's been no notification. It's just a reminder, and usually we'll send out the permitted activity rules. But also, if it is a resource consent, we'll send out those consent conditions to them. Maybe 5 years ago, just before COVID, we did send out a letter to all consent holders around gravel takes, reminding them of their obligations. So 5 years, it could be actually a good time to resend a letter.
Commissioner, yep, Andy?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, excuse me, unaware that they have to notify it. And also for quantities, you know, it's not fair that some people are paying the 25 cents a metre and all other people aren't.
Yep, well, we'll see what happens when the RMA comes out in November or whatever. They're saying there's a lot of changes coming up, so might all be gone, I don't know. Who knows?
So
Okay.
like in the next newsletter, should we just?
We're going to remind them of obligations that they've got to do now.
Yeah.
And then if there's any changes when they change this RMA stuff, just we're going to have to front foot it all then. Start the education all over again, aren't we? That sort of stuff. Okay, moving on. So we're up to Merrill. Planning PTP report. Oh. Really tough ones to last.
It's 174.
So the recommendation is to receive a report. Advice from Dr. staff would like to pursue on the air and coastal plan that provide changes. Cease work on both these plans immediately and deploy staff onto other work. Continue working on both plans until legislation comes into effect, and then cease work or continue working on one or both plans with the intention of seeking an exemption to continue the planning process. I take it everybody's read it. We're understanding what we're talking about here. We'll give you all a chance to speak and then your ideas, and then we'll just vote on it. Really, there's not really much really to discuss, is there? In light of what's going on, so for you, Peter.
Peter, yep. Oh, Peter, yep. Okay, well, my point of view is I think we should just pause on it at the moment and actually on those plans and then just deploy the staff on helping the backlog of some of that consent stuff. It's what I would have thought, but I do note in there, you know, there's some of the stuff almost done, so maybe, you know, just finish. But I mean, I think, you know, given the government have sent that signal, I think it's probably best just to cease work on those and for the staff. That'd be my way of thinking.
I understood that you couldn't, you didn't have to start working if you're already involved.
Apart from the TPP, I'm talking about the air plan review, and sorry, the TPP is going to carry on no matter what, and the coastal plan review. That's those two items.
So it's the air plan and the coastal plan that affects the most. We TTPP's part.
Yeah. Okay.
The air plan is, I believe it's closest to, we were at a point where we could consult on an issues and options paper. We were ready to go and do that, and it's probably the one that causes the most challenges at the moment. It's currently not meeting the legal requirements of it, and it's causes complaints to us because we don't have the right rules. It makes it difficult for us to address complaints. So that's the only one that we would even propose that we potentially try and get an exemption to be able to finish it. But yes.
You?
Us, agreement with Councillor Haddock, cease work on both.
I don't know what to think really. I mean, everything's been paused, backtracked, fast-tracked. So we don't know where we are.
Off tracks.
Off tracks. So around in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Francois, do you want to have a say in this?
Yeah. So, Joe, have we started any work on that air plan that you're talking about?
So yes, we've been working on the coastal plan and the air plan for quite some time.
we have. So
And they're
technically we
both
can,
nearly,
technically we can continue with it, right?
we could continue with it, but there's no way we're going to get it finished before December, which is when they're proposing that they're going to get the legislation through.
Right, but it's causing you some grief. One of them's causing you some grief, yeah?
The air plan is
Yeah, and
more
is
than
there
the
any
coastal
chance,
plan.
is there any chance of getting that sorted by that timeframe?
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I could, maybe pose a solution, because I am hearing that some councillors want to stop, both plans. I wonder whether there's a compromise here. I wonder whether we pause and halt the coastal plan, because the coastal policy statement is going to be substantially changed, and that will, lead on down to the coastal plan. And I don't think that's a good use of our resource, given all the changes. But there's not a lot coming down the line on the air plan, right? So I think a nice and tidy way of just wrapping this up is to allow the issues and options document for the air plan to go out to the community for feedback. And it's not a formal consultation on the RMA, it's a non-statutory. I think we should get that out and get that feedback from the industry groups, the boilers, the hospital, and that sort of thing. Get that back, and we can probably do that. And looking at Joe and Max here before December, and that's a nice way of completing that part of the work before the government formally legislates, and that leaves it nice and tidy for when we start back up again. I wonder if that's a compromise, councillors.
That was where I was hoping to get to, Joe, in terms of what can we do to take the heat off the team. And that sounds like a good way forward to me.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Well, I'm okay to carry on with the air plan, because what we're doing is gathering information. We're not putting anything into place or law or anything. It's basically going to be a draft type thing, isn't it? So the information we gain between now and then will still be informative without having to go through something you've got to try and change. So I'm okay with that, and just pause the coastal one, which is going to be quite complicated.
Other thing is with the coastal plan, it's a relatively low risk thing to leave it go, because we're already well inside intuitively the standards that they're asking about anyway. So we could actually.
We're actually well outside the rules, aren't we? Length of time, how many years behind are we? But anyway, we're worried.
Standards.
Standards. Good thing about the coast is it comes in and out every day.
I'm happy to put a resolution.
Yep.
Chair, and that's continue with the air plan, cease work on the coastal plan, and deploy staff on other work. And I guess that would be probably consenting work.
So,
Yes, you can.
would you like
We can decide that.
No, Max, you only have to get the exemption once the legislation comes into force. Yeah. So.
I know. You can move that, Peter?
Yep, move it. Yep.
Second, Peter Ewan. All those in favour? Aye. TTP plan. Do you want to talk about it today?
There's not really much to say on the TTP. plan.
There's been no meetings or anything, so it's not really any
It's all
update.
going to happen in September.
I just want to say thank you, Joe, for giving out that information. I hope you all read it, because it's a the people on the committee especially need to know going forward.
Yeah,
I was
Mr.
wondering
Chairman,
whether it'd be worthwhile sending that out to the other committee meetings from the other councils.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no problem with that. It's all public information, isn't it?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to comment here that the situation, that's actually was decided some time ago was to appoint an independent panel, given the delegation to go away and do the hearings and all that sort of thing, come back with the recommendations. And look, I know there is going to be some frustration with the joint committee about legally what they can and can't do when those recommendations come back. Now, that is a result of giving away the delegation to an independent set of commissioners. Back in the day, in the first 10, 20 years of the RMA, vast majority of consents, hearings, and even plan hearings were sat and decided by elected councillors, right? And even those in that latter period with their commissioner tickets. It is of an increasing trend around the country now that councillors don't want to sit, even if they've got their tickets, and hear that because of the large amount of work that's required, or complexity, or worry about whether they can actually do that quite detailed work. But by giving it away to independent commissioners in full or in part, creates the position that the Joint Committee is now in with the TPP. And going into next term of this council, I will be encouraging the newly elected members to seriously consider having one or more elected members from this council on our hearings, both consents and our plans. Because when the government decides what it's going to do with the RMA, we are going to have plan hearings. We are. And you give away all of that to independent commissioners at your peril without having elected members having a say, at least one on the panel. But I do understand the imposition that has on particularly those of you that have jobs during the day and that, because it's a massive amount of work.
Yes. I think some of the tools that the RMA had made itself so complex that a lot of laymen couldn't understand it, and some of that was probably to do with the consultants putting so much stuff in there that to baffle people, so they could keep their jobs.
Through the chair, I take your point, Daryl, but I think with regarding the TPP, I believe in a lot of stuff that relates to the regional council, but it's a really good idea to have commissioners and councillor. You encouraged all councillors when we first got elected to do that course. I take them granted I didn't do that, but with the TPP, it actually encompasses the 3 plans for the 3 district councils, and that's a huge amount of work. And I don't think that the councils and the regional council and our iwi partners would have had the time to be able to hear all those submissions and do that. It's been nearly a full-time, well, it's almost been a full-time job for those commissioners. So I think it's one on its own, and I think the right decision was made to put it out to those commissioners, and hopefully they will come back with a recommendation to that committee that's palatable for the community. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, for what they come back. But that would have been a huge amount of work, and I think people would have had to allocate it from the 4 councils and the iwi at least 4 months of your time. I don't know that you could have done that.
Seen it be longer though, hasn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, and coordinate them all to get together. Yeah, I don't know.
But just on the TTP too, I don't think there's until they bring out the reforms in the RMA, probably we can only just take the information that's probably going to be paused until after the RMA happens anyway, I would imagine. I don't know. Depends on the committee, the way the committee's feeling. It just doesn't seem right to put something into place that's going to have to be changed. It's always harder to change something, and it's
also a transitional period after it. Even if they are contrary to the recommendations of the changes, the RMA, it's going to be a transitional period that those recommendations of the commissioners will hold up for several years.
Yeah, well, there's only going to be a certain amount, a small percentage that's going to be controversial. A lot of it's just going to go straight through, hopefully. Yeah, that's what I thought. I think so.
Yeah.
We'll know next month.
There's different chapters through the chair, and some and of course the stuff that didn't have any submissions to is actually not been enacted already, but there's stuff in there that in the different chapters that won't be controversial, that'll probably have to be passed sooner than later. And I guess that's the committee will do that. But if there is different chapters in there that are controversial, it may be, we'll have to wait and see what the commissions come back before it goes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is going to be a real challenge facing the Joint Committee, and just as a reminder, we have Brett and Peter on that joint committee, as well as Francois and Paul Madgwick. But the challenge in front of the joint committee is this. There are going to be some controversial things that maybe the joint committee, isn't minded to move on and worries about what change is going to come down the RMA. I do agree with Councillor Cole that when they change the RMA, it's not overnight. There's transitional procedures, usually over a year or so. So it's not happening instantaneously, but the joint committee is going to have to balance that up with things such as some developers are pleading the district council to get this TTPP operative because they want the change in zoning so they can go and build some houses. So how are you going to balance that up is going to be a fascinating conversation at the joint committee.
Wait and see.
Yeah.
Because pin out and just slash our way through.
Righto.
So you on?
Oh, Councillor Ewan.
Yeah, I'll just make the point about commissioners from outside. At the moment, it's Hobson's choice for the West Coast councils, all councils. There's 35 councillors in the last 10 and 10 before. I think Grey's got none, Western's got none. I'm not too sure about Buller, but as far as I'm aware, out of the 35 councillors,
Councillor Nealon's one.
he's finished now. No, from me, from the odds. And aside from you and I, we're the only ones on the coast councils elected members out of Bob actually sit it. So that tells you plenty.
No one
So we
rang
get
us.
what we get.
No one rang us up.
No. Right, if we want locals to do it, well, locals got to be prepared to sit it. They put them in.
Well, it's just something we need to push it, or we might not be here for the next council. Because the regional council funded us through it, so at the end of that, look after that part.
Well, where's we done it?
Time.
Where's we done it?
Yeah.
On their own merits.
Well, they would go out to Merrill, down for lunch.
Yeah, well, my
Oh, general business. Pass it over. These meetings all done on it?
It's done.
Yep. All right, general business. Any?
None for me.
I say everyone's shaking their heads, we'll call it quits, Go for lunch.
Motion.
We get everyone come back.
I'll move, we go out.
Go to public, that's a second. Chris Bell. Right, thanks everybody for your patience. Now close the public meeting at 1:20 and move on to general. Live streaming. Welcome everyone, councillors, staff, those joining us online, to the meeting of council on Tuesday, 5th August 2025. Running a wee bit behind today, we've had a couple of workshops and our resource management committee. So the first thing on the agenda today is apologies. We have an apology from Councillor McIntyre and Councillor Birchfield. Someone like to move those be, is there any further apologies? Francois online. Good. Thanks, Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Cummings, all in favour. Right. Declaration of interest, anyone got any declarations of interest? We'll bring them up now or later on. There's no public forums, petitions or deputations today. So I'm going to move on, councillors, to item 8, because we've got Stuart online and Stuart's got another appointment. So we'll just move on to 8.1, which is on page 11 of our meeting papers, and that's the non-financial performance reporting for 2024-25 year, Q4. So Stuart, welcome along, and would you like to speak to these?
Mr. Chair, kia ora, councillors. Thank you very much for allowing me to go quickly into this, Mr. Chair. That's awesome. I'm very pleased to present to you the first full year of our non-financial performance report for the LTP 2434 metric set. So it's the first time we've actually been in a situation where we've reported for the full year on those. You'll see in the report, and I'll go through it in a level of detail, but very conscious of how much time I've got here today with you all, that the Q3 as well as Q4 performance details are included. So that's a comparison. And then it's the full year performance report as well. So those figures are different. As a general summation, our performance for those metrics we were reporting on, and that's 27 of the 30 metrics, is at an 85% level, i.e. 85% of the metrics in quarter 4 were delivered. Now that isn't necessarily the same as the full year performance report. And the reason for that is that all of our metrics are very strict. So when we don't deliver on one thing for a quarter, we fail for the whole year. And that's different from what we've actually delivered in that quarter. And so the reporting on that is very strict, to be honest. And you'll see, as an example, for our Lagoimas, we delivered overall for the entire year 97.6%, I think it is, of our Lagoimas or official information requests on time. But there are 3 in the year that we didn't. And so that's a fail. So it's a fail for the year overall, because the target is 100% and 97.6, pretty close, still not 100. But for the quarter, in some of those metrics, we actually delivered that. For that particular one, we didn't in the final quarter. So that's the brief overarching summary. Are there any questions, Mr. Chair, before I move on to just go through in a little bit of detail?
Any questions of Stuart, councillors? No, it's a very good report, Stuart. That's no doubt we've all read it in detail. So carry on, Stuart, and then we'll go to them.
Kia ora. Well, there are 3 measures that council will be aware of that we're not reporting on for this year. And that's measure number 8, which is the rating district review, which I appreciate we've already put some effort into to actually start the work for that for this year that we're now in. Number 28, which is the measure associated with navigation, safety and harbour management, and number 30, which is the quarry and VCS business plans. The rest I'm going to go through in a level of detail now. So as I say, performance for quarter 4 is the same as quarter 3, and it's at 85% level. Now, some of the measures that we achieved in quarter 4 are not necessarily the same as the measures we achieved in quarter 3. So just to give you a heads up on that. Overall, though, I think the really key message is for the entire year, we achieved 20 of the 27 targets that we're reporting on, and that's 74% of our performance targets were achieved. And that is achieved from the 1st of July all the way through continuously until the 30th of June. So that's a big achievement, to be honest. So 2 of the targets not achieved were a result of external inputs. So 2 of those, for example, were with the natural policy statements not coming through. Therefore, we stopped that work program. And a further was an absence of allowance in approved variance, and I've already discussed that one. So just briefly now through the various measure sets. So for regional leadership, so I've already talked about our Lagoimas or Official Information Act requests. As I say, we've got 136 of those, of which 97.6 were delivered, but the target's 100. We, as council will also know, up front at the beginning, we received a qualification for our annual report. And so that was failed from the 1st quarter onwards. What you'll see, though, is we actually delivered the annual plan on time. So that's why that's actually shown as green for the last quarter. In infrastructure and resilience. Now, this is a really interesting one because we have presented to council during the year that we've changed some of our works programs, and that's been discussed with council. But because the target says you have to deliver your annual work program at the beginning of the year, I've actually marked that as not achieved for the year. Now, council might not agree with that approach, and I appreciate that's quite harsh, but the measure says at the beginning of the year, you have to achieve the annual work program. We changed it. There's no variance allowed, the same as the other measures. So I've marked that quite harshly with that particular one. There was also one that came out at the last minute, and councillors will be aware of this. Our emergency management group work program wasn't reviewed in the time we were expecting, and we're actually doing that this month now. But again, that is not a pass for the year because the schedule was for that time of year. With natural environment, great success story. All 4 measures were achieved for the entire year, and that's fantastic. Policy and regulation, we've had some discussions on that already, so if that's okay, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to propose going through that one. The last one I just want to briefly touch on is our commercial return on our investment, and that has been quite exceeded in terms of what the expected return and the final return is, and that's through the JBWare process. So overall, I believe it's a really strong performance. I think it demonstrates that we're actually delivering on council's commitments to the community. Even if my measure, the standard that I'm actually working to is quite harsh in terms of how I'm marking these things. I'm not allowing for any tolerance. So open it up, Mr. Chair, if that's okay, for any conversations or questions.
Thanks, Stuart. Questions, Stuart, councillors? Brett, you got any?
Good report, Stuart.
Andy, you got any?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Great.
I'll just make the comment, Stuart, you've been a little bit harsh on yourself because they're not achieved with the margins. It's policy, national policy statements is out of our control, a lot of it. So I've got no concern.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, but I'm trying to be really consistent here, and that's what I'm going to be through this new year coming in as well. The targets will change for the new year because it's year 2 LTP now. So there'll be different things that we measure ourselves against. But I do understand where you're coming from, Councillor, but I'm trying to be very consistent in how I'm marking this performance.
Yep. No, Stuart, I agree with Councillor Ewan. You've definitely been harsh on yourself and ourselves as a council. I reckon we've really achieved well here for the community, delivering, and although we haven't achieved in total, there's good reasoning in there, and I think and I think it's a great result considering those points. So,
just an extra thing to get chair. This is a caveat. This has to go through audit, so at the end of the day, there's still further review when we get through the annual report. So they can be viewed as part of that process or reviewed as part of that process as well.
That's noted. Thank you. Right, so the recommendation is 1, receive the report. 2, note the reported performance for Q4 and note the reported performance for the full year, given that caveat. Can I have a move for that? Councillor Cummings, thank you. Second by Councillor Campbell. All in favour? Aye. It's carried unanimously. Hey, thanks, Stuart, for joining us in this difficult time. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, councillors. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so councillors, we'll move back now to page 1 of the meeting papers, and that's confirmation of the minutes of council meeting on the 1st of July 2025. Are there any corrections to those minutes? No corrections. Well, the recommendation is that council resolves to confirm that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 1st of July are true and correct. Record. It's moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Cole. All in favour, say aye. Aye. That's carried unanimously. Right. Actions list. So the full actions list is here on page sheet 9. Page 9. And the actions list is complete on that. So that was completed on the 30th of May. So the recommendation is we receive a report and information.
We did promise we'd give an update to that document for end of June. So we're still going to do that. It's one more little step in the process. Just
an update. Yep.
Yes, an update.
Noted. Okay. So we'll receive the report and information noted and look forward to that.
Meryl will give me another action to sort out.
Yep, another action. So I'm happy to move that. Second by Councillor Ewan. All in favour, say aye. It's carried. Next item on the list is the Chair's report. And this is the Chair's report for the 5th of August. So July was again another busy month for council and staff. While on the top of the South flood events, our council offered help and this was gratefully accepted. Civil Defence staff, Paul Gurney and Joe Reid, went to Marlborough and assisted in this event. Sam Gibbons and Reuben Stewart from the hydrology team also went and supported Tasman's flood monitoring, recovery and preparedness work. Tasman District Council have emailed us to thank us immensely for the assistance and noted their experience. Equipment, vehicles and basic horsepower made a huge difference in this event. Engineer John Ellis was also sent and is still working on stop bank and flood defence repairs today. This reinforces the importance of reciprocal regional assistance in any event and the value of our experienced and well-trained staff. All of these costs are recoverable. So I'd just like to thank on behalf of council, all those concerned and those staff members that gave their time to go up there. On the 3rd of July, we joined Grey District Mayor and Chief Executive Darren and I. We met the Honourable Tingi Uteri, who is Labour's spokesperson for local government and transport. We were able to share our region's transport, resilience and route security concerns. On the 14th and 15th July, prior to the LGNZ conference in Christchurch, we hosted around 40 plus regional chairs, CEs and councillors from around the country and bussed them to Franz Josef to show firsthand the Waiho Flood Protection Scheme and involving issues with the Waiho and the Tartary Avulsion. They had a presentation while we were down there and they were all amazed at what was happening there. We also visited the Hokitika and Greymouth flood schemes and several mining operations to show the importance of our primary industries and how they fit in with the regional sector. The group were amazed at the extent of our protection works and some face quite similar problems, but they commented that ours was on steroids. The opportunity to showcase part of our region was invaluable as we require funding from the next tranche of the RIF to complete several of our schemes, being Greymouth and Hokitika. The group all paid their share of the cost of the tour, so it wasn't a cost to our ratepayers, but it was a good opportunity to showcase our region and show the problems that we face. On the 21st of July, I attended the South Island Regional Transport Committee Chairs meeting. Unfortunately, Councillor Ewan couldn't attend in Christchurch, which was my final opportunity after 18 years serving on the Regional Transport Committee to push our transport concerns, major things being route security, maintenance and safety issues. Last Thursday evening, the Franz Josef Rating District Joint Committee meeting was held, and it was an opportunity to also see the protection works both completed and underway, as well as the evolving Tartary Avulsion. Matt Gardner presented to the committee and attendees the latest modelling from the supercomputer, and the predictions were sobering for those that were present. I'd like to thank Tom Hopkins for his professionalism and efforts in bringing council and the community together and progressing the work programs both at Franz and Hokitika. Thanks, Tom. Someone like to move the chair's report, please. Thank you, Councillor Ewan. Councillor Campbell, in favour. Thanks for you, Merrill. Right, moving through. Now we've got the item 8.2, and that's on page 33 of our meeting papers, or 37, and that's the update to the councillor allowance and expense reimbursement policy. So, thanks, Claire. Do you want to speak to this, Claire, before we move the recommendation?
So this is hopefully a straightforward report. So as you may be aware, the local government elected members' determination 2025 has been updated. And as a result of that, we just want to bring to your attention 2 items. We, as a result of that, need to update the councillor allowance and expense reimbursement policy. So that takes into account matters like vehicle kilometre allowance, travel time allowance and childcare allowance. So that has been updated in amended text into the report, which is attached to this report. So this is for you to note. The other matter in this report is to seek some guidance from you. What is now also included in that
determination is an element around an allowance for a home security system. So this is newly introduced. So what we are asking is that council give us some guidance on whether you would like us to do some further work on the implications around the home security system and come back to you with a future report on that, including costings around that, or not. So that is the two aspects of this. In terms of implications, we have listed in the report an example of the types of implications that we would need to go through if we were to progress work on the home security system. And we have listed those in 4 dot points on page 3. I'll just quickly go through those. The security system installation is based on a security threat and risk assessment authorised by the local authority. Is this carried out in-house or contracted out? The second implication is this installation of the system limited to once per member? What happens when a member may move house during their term, etc. And what happens when an elected member is not re-elected? So those are the types of implications that we would like to work through and more thoroughly, if you agree that we continue work in this matter or not.
Righto, well,
I think we should just leave it alone myself. Just another can of worms. I think if the council wants to get a security system, $4,500, it should be able to afford it.
or a Rottweiler.
Or a Rottweiler. I mean, it's just another thing when you run into problems with people shifting houses or ending their term and all the rest of it. Where's it all end up? It's just, I don't know, that's my opinion.
Andy, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we should leave it alone. I've got a dog, and if we upset the people that much, we'll get out of it.
Fair enough. Any other comments?
I agree with Andy, actually.
Yep. Councillor on?
Yeah.
Francois, any comments? No? No.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I believe that's just a personal, councillors get an honorarium. I think if they want to do the security, they can either get a dog or, like I say, or security camera themselves. Most people have that. So, I think we won't proceed with that. So I'll make the recommendation in a minute. But the other items clear are the council allowance and expense reimbursements. Those ones, kilometre rate, they're all made by the remuneration authority anyway, so that's it. And just note that the travel time allowance, I've never seen in the time I've been here any councillor ever claim that travel time. So while it's in there, it's never been claimed. Well, one we claim at the end of the year. So is there any further discussion before I put I'll put the recommendations. So one is receive the report, and 2, note the reviewed council allowance and expense reimbursement policy as presented in attachment 1 dated the 1st July 25, and agreed not to proceed with including the home security system allowance and the council allowance and expense reimbursement policy at this time. Before I move it, is there any further discussion? No further discussion. Well, I'll move it. I have a second for that. Councillor Cole, thank you. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, Claire. That. Next item on the list is general business. Getting through today pretty quick. Been a big day, however. General business. Are there any items of general business to bring up? Councillor Campbell.
Clarence Boyd, she's emailed. Look at their seawall on that.
In the special rating district.
I'll speak for that. Yes, so noted that email.
Note that Vance has advised that he's overseas on holiday for a while, and will connect in with those bandos when they come back. I just want to note that we're having a number of communities that are starting to talk about either adding new assets into existing schemes or creating a new scheme. So councillors, there is a conversation that is starting in Reefton around a potential flood scheme up there. And we welcome those conversations with our community and decide in the council ultimately to decide whether they want to do that. What's driving the Reefton one, of course, is there is 10 of new houses earmarked there with the mining. And some of the areas could be flood prone, and there's those orphan assets up there. So we've got a number of conversations going on. And councillors, I just want to also note that dovetails really well and nicely into the KPI for this financial year, which is a review of how we administer all of our flood schemes and how we're going to do that into the future. But it's very standard. If a community has a voice and the majority of the community indicates that they'd like to have a flood scheme, we can start that conversation with them. And all the normal targeted rates and other things would apply. Thank you.
I guess she shines a good light on the regional council, really, if people are coming to us. If we were that bad, they wouldn't come to them.
No. Good point, councillor Cummings. Really good point.
Say that again, I did, missed that last bit.
Oh, just saying, it shines a good light on the council that people are coming to us for help. If we were as bad as they wouldn't come if they thought they weren't going to get a fair deal.
And like in a situation like that, if that's all affected parties to contribute.
Sure. That's a really good point, councillor Campbell, because otherwise, in a situation, you could have 10 people say, yep, we're all happy to chuck in $5,000 or whatever, or 50 grand, and then one person goes, no, I'm not doing anything, and then it's an unfair. So that's the beauty of a rating district. But I do agree with councillor Cummings. It's showing that I think the confidence has been rebuilt in the council with our rating districts. It's certainly a different scene than what it was 3 years ago when we first approached them. But I think now they've got their works happening. They've got a good set of financial accounts, and that's credit to the staff and Daryl, for getting all that stuff in line. And I think going forward, the new council will have a much easier road going to those great meetings.
I think you're running an apology still, yeah? Bag must be empty by now.
Only one left. No, that's all good. So any other further general business? I just want to just say that the meeting papers are improving all the time. So thank you very much, Diane and Meryl, for doing these. By having the good information, it means the meetings take a lot less time because we've absorbed it. You've got good information, but that also flows back to the staff that are actually presenting these papers and putting these papers all together for council. So there's a lot of work goes in behind the scene to doing this, but I think it really shows that by having clear, precise information, it makes the decision making so much easier. So that means our meetings, can be shorter. And I think from my point of view, this is the shortest council meeting that I've attended, in the term here. So I think there's not that much on the agenda, but it makes it easier. No further general business. I'll move then that that the public will move into public excluded, and that the public be excluded from the following parts of proceedings of this meeting, namely agenda items 11 to 13. So we'll stop the live streaming. Oh, sorry, yeah, I moved it. Seconded by councillor Cole. All in favour? Against? That's carried. Are we? No, we're online. Yep. Well, thanks everyone for attending the council meeting on the 5th of August. We've just come back out of public excluded, and we are moving back into public. There's nothing to report after the public excluded minutes, so I'll declare the meeting closed at 2:14. Thanks very much, everyone, for their attendance. See you, Francois. See you, Chantal. And the public.